Let's make sure he's, yeah.
Do the Pledge of Allegiance first. Good evening, everybody. If everybody will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is a regular meeting of the City of Milton Planning Commission. I am Sumit Shah, chairperson. This is a 7-member commission appointed by the City of Milton Mayor and City Council, created for the purpose of holding public hearings and making recommendations on rezoning, use permits, concurrent variance applications, comprehensive land use plan and plan map, and other related plans and amendments to the zoning ordinance. I'd like to go ahead and first introduce our Planning Commission board members. To my left, we have Fred Edwards, Kurt Nolte, I'm Sumit Shah again, Ron Gilbert, Marty Locke, and Jan Jacobus. Zach Middlebrooks is not here. The petitions will be heard in the sequence listed on the posted agenda. I would like to acquaint you with some of the rules and procedures conducting this meeting. The applicant and all those speaking in support of an application will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present the petition. The applicant may choose to save some of the time for rebuttal following the presentation by the opposition. The opposition will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present its position. If time remains, the opposition will be allowed to rebut. Since the burden of proof is upon the applicant will be allowed to make closing remarks, provided time remains with the allotted time. The staff of the Community Development Department will be keeping track of time and will inform you periodically of the remaining time for your presentation. Each speaker must fill out a speaker card before speaking and leave it with a staff member of the Community Development Department. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization, if applicable, before beginning their presentation. When an opponent of a rezoning action has made, within 2 years immediately preceding the filing of the rezoning action being opposed, campaign contributions aggregating $250 or more to a local government official of the local government which will consider the application, it shall be the duty of the opponent to file a disclosure with the governing authority of the respective local government at least 5 days prior to the Planning Commission meeting. A violation of the relevant state statute constitutes a misdemeanor. Therefore, if you have contributed $250 or more to a council member and you have not filed a disclosure prior to the Planning Commission meeting, the city attorney strongly suggests that you have someone else speak for your point of view. Each application has been properly filed with the Department of Community Development. Signs have been posted on each site, the matter has been advertised, and the notices have been mailed to property owners affected by this zoning as required by the Milton Zoning Ordinance. The Planning Commission's recommendation will be forwarded to the City of Milton Mayor and City Council for final disposition in approximately 5 weeks on the first Monday of each month at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. The Community Development Department has reviewed each application in conjunction with various agencies and departments, both internal and external to the city. Staff's recommendations, findings, and conclusion are here before us in written form, which has been made available to all petitioners and to the public. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, dialogue with the person speaking, or outburst. Please turn off all cell phones or place them on silent. All remarks will be addressed by the Planning Commission. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will expect to receive yourself. In addition, the applicant shall not submit material to the Planning Commission during the meeting unless requested to do so by the Commission. All material that you wish to be reviewed by the Commission in consideration of your application should be submitted to the staff of the Community Development Department to be included in the normal distribution of packages to the Commission. Finally, to the applicant, if your petition is deferred in accordance with the Milton Zoning Ordinance, you are required to update or obtain a new sign for reposting. Failure to update or repost will result in further delay. There are no exceptions. At this time, I'd like to call for general public comment, and before I do that, let me also make one other announcement. So if you are attending virtually via Zoom, there are a few guidelines I would also like to mention. Everyone is muted and your videos are turned off by default to minimize any disruptions. If you would like to make a comment during the public hearing portions of this meeting, please raise your hand by clicking on the icon labeled Participants at the bottom of your screen and then click the button labeled Raise Hand. If you are calling into the meeting on a phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 on your keyboard. Once the moderator calls your name, please unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone button on the bottom of your screen or by pressing *6 on your phone. So at this time, I'd like to call for any general public comment, and time will be limited to 2 minutes per person and not to exceed 14 minutes.
Yeah, we do not have any general public comment.
Okay. At this time, then I'd like to continue on with the agenda. The next item is the approval of the action minutes from the January 27th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. Does anybody have any comments on that or any motions?
I move we accept the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting on Wednesday, January 27th, 2021.
Okay, hearing.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to accept those minutes and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That motion has passed, and we have accepted those minutes. Next item on the agenda is the text amendment, and I will sound for RZ 21-03. Robin?
Yes, so as you all know, last month, this item was brought up, and I presented the staff's recommendation and some different information. But I believe after some further deliberation and discussions, it was decided to defer it, based in part to have further discussions in general of flag lots amongst you all, as well as possibly City Council or CPAC. I'm not sure who wants to get involved. I do know that we did give City Council some information a couple weeks ago as well. So anyway, we can do, I have another item after this, kind of a work session discussing flag lots, and I do have an informal presentation, and maybe that can be, I don't necessarily think that we're going to resolve it at all tonight, but to be able to come up with some ideas and maybe forward them to the City Council. So if you guys want to discuss the actual text amendment about the pools allowed in the front of flag lots, either we can defer it for another month, or if you want to, it's up to y'all. And
Could we move to move the flag lots above the text amendment?
we can, if you
Yeah, we can.
guys
I
would like
can
to do
entertain a
that.
motion for that if you want to make a motion to.
Make a motion that we move the discussion on flag lots and to the first part of the meeting, and RZ 21-03 be heard after the flag lot presentation.
Okay. So we have a motion to change the order of the agenda items and for us to move the text amendments for RZ 21-03 to the next agenda item, and first hear about the discussion of flag lots with a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. So we'll move to the discussion of flag lots now.
Okay, great. Try to keep my voice going here. So I'm just going to go over some different information and then give you some examples of different types of flag lots that we have existing in the city, and then we can open it up with some discussion. So here, if we can switch it to
Excuse me, Robin. One question. What is the objective here? You say we were going to send something back to what's the ultimate deliverable that we're looking to produce?
I believe it's just trying to look at, in general, flag lots and how they've impacted the city, how they've been developed. in the since we've been a city, as well as really goes back for a long time in Fulton County, and deciding, in the future, is it something that we want to change anything about it? Are we okay with it the way it is? Or, is it something that instead of altogether eliminating flag lots, look at other options of making alternatives or options of the different types of flag lots? So I'll walk you through what that would be. So I think just kind of getting a better education of what's out there. I mean, I think a lot of times we think about flag lots, it's like, oh no, it's the big bad wolf, and and it may or may not be that. I mean, that's for you guys to have a discussion about, and I think it depends on how it's implemented. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So I think just giving you all a little bit of education of what's out there on the ground, as well as, prompting some discussions amongst yourselves, deliberation, and see what kind of conclusions you might come up with, and then we can forward that to, you can bring that to CPAC as well as to City Council. So,
and I believe to staff as well, if there's anything that we would like staff to potentially further research or look at.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that doesn't mean it ends here. Correct. That's a great point. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So, just a status of flag lots in our sister cities. Roswell and Sandy Springs eliminated them in 2014, 2017 when they did their UDC, Unified Development Code. Currently, City of Alpharetta eliminated it back in 2001. I think that's when they did their UDC and a complete rewrite of their zoning ordinance. City of Johns Creek still permits flag lots.
You mentioned earlier that there's possibly alternatives. Did any of those three cities that eliminated flag lots, they offer alternatives?
Not that I know of, and maybe
Hold up.
Since he works in, they just eliminated them. They just have normal, regular lots that would conform with the zoning district with a certain required a lot frontage and then lot width at the building line. So 100 foot at the building line, or Johns Creek and Sandy Springs, they have much smaller lots.
Robin, why did they eliminate flag lots?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't ask that question, so I can't tell you why they eliminated them. Other than I think that Sandy Springs and really Roswell, I think it becomes an issue with maybe access for fire, depending on how long the stem is of the flag. And, I think flag lots are more appropriate in less dense areas. So obviously Sandy Springs, it's fairly dense. I mean, they do have some areas along the river that are actually still AG1, I believe. So it's not like it's entirely out of the question, but typically those jurisdictions are more urbanized and higher density where there really isn't a need for it. So, I can't answer the question directly from each city. I'm just making that.
Okay, well, just sort of, since we're teeing up questions for follow-up, perhaps, I think it would be interesting to know what the express rationale was for each of those cities.
Right.
And also if there's a broader move to eliminate flag lots beyond these three cities, I don't know. If it's just these three towns, or whether it's something broader in the region, or broader still in the country. Just to give us some perspective and context.
Has our fire department weighed in on this?
I'm sorry, what?
The fire department, have they weighed in on this?
We haven't gotten quite into that detail. I mean, they work with us when we look at subdivisions or typically it's more minor plats that happen that this happens. So they do have regulations that they add on to, as far as I think it's their hose length is about 600 feet. So if the stem goes more than 600 feet, then they may require the applicant to put in a fire hydrant closer to the house because they're just not really, they don't have all sorts of water sitting on their trucks. They make it work. You know, they work with the community development department to make sure that they're safe. And if for some reason it's just so far back, they put basically a clause on the plat saying that, you know, you may not be able to get fire insurance or, house insurance based upon, or it might be much higher in cost than a normal lot or if you live within a subdivision. So it's not that they're saying, but it's not like they're like, oh, no, you can't do that. They work with the applicants as they submit for the flag lots. Okay. So I did a audit of the last 4 years of our approved flag lots. So 2017, we had one that contained 9.2 acres, 5.4, 5.74 acre lots. In 2018, there were 3, so they tended to be just your traditional, smaller, around 1 acre lot plats, minor plats. And then 2019, there were 4. One of the plats contained 1.2 acre and 13.2 acre lots. So of the 4, one of them was pretty large acreage. In 2020, we had 2 that were approved, and one of the plats contained 1.3 and then and 17 acres. So again, you have a large estate lot, and then many times it might be a family where the parents may be subdividing for the child or a relative, that type of situation. So it's not necessarily the higher density 1 acre all the time, but obviously it does happen.
Robin, since they are minor plots, and then in all those years, we didn't see any of these. Isn't that correct?
Correct. That's the way the system is set up, that any minor plat is 3 lots or less of subdividing, except for we have the large lot incentive where if it's 3 acres minimum, we talked about that the last meeting. So yes. Right. And so you're correct. You do not see the minor plats. It's administrative review, staff review. So.
Robin, are there any currently under a discussion with you?
There is. I couldn't tell. I mean, we've got about 10 or 12 plats sitting on our table, so I couldn't. I mean, I know today, I think I looked at maybe 2. One was a large parcel with a smaller parcel. I can't talk. With a smaller parcel divided out as a flag lot. And I think there is one that is, they're like minimum 2.5 to 3 acres. They're 3 lots on Hopewell that they're proposing to subdivide. So they're not super small. So again, what we see really ranges in sizes. It's not necessarily everybody's coming in for the 1 acre lots, but every situation is different, just depending on the property owner.
But there is a pipeline of a couple out there.
Oh, at least, yes, yeah. Okay. And with that said, we're very busy with development. I think, with COVID and interest rates being really low, I mean, there's just such a high pressure out there for whether buying existing houses or whether developers going out looking for land. I mean, I can't tell. I mean, there's a certain piece of land up on Mountain Road that it's a huge piece of property, but it has horrible stem all the way back there. And I must have talked to 3 different sets of people in the last week about it. And no, you can only subdivide it into 2 lots because there's only 95 feet of frontage, because you have to have 35 feet of frontage for each lot. Okay, so you can't quite get to the 3rd lot. And they're like, well, I don't understand. There's all this land here. And I'm like, well, that's what the regulations say. So there's a lot of pressure right now for developing land, and not necessarily in a bad way. It's just everybody wants to live in Milton. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people do. So there's a lot of development pressure right now. So with that said, I'm saying that because I think the number of plats, the number of single-family houses, everything has just gone crazy. So anyway, that's my little spiel. But let me walk you through some different examples that are in the city. And I apologize, it's just that I don't have better graphics, but just want to show you some real life situation. Sorry, Juan, I'm staying out here. Okay. Okay. So this is a piece of land on Arnold Mill on the eastern side. I think it's. And we have two lots, one that's 5.3, one that's 4.7. So obviously you see they're pretty large estate lots, even using the technique of a flag lot. So again, a lot of it is determined by the frontage because you just don't want to have two skinny long lots, you know, for developing. It works better to place a house when you have more rectangular type lots. And that's what a flag lot will produce when you don't have a really large frontage along the road. So you'll notice that it's the stem. This is always minimum 35 feet here. This frontage of that along the road is 35 feet.
Are there any code restrictions about how far one driveway has to be from the next?
Typically in flag lots, they do shared driveways. So that kind of eliminates that issue and that's makes it kind of nice for, not having a bunch of different driveways.
Yeah, minimizing the curb cuts.
Right, a curb cut, right.
But so is it required that in something like this they have the same?
It's not required. I think it just depends on how it's set up. Sometimes if they're going to sell off the property to somebody they don't know and there's already, like in this instance, you can see that the driveway already exists here, and I guess, it's just easier to share a driveway. So I would say the majority of times they're going to be shared, but we don't require that.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
But if somebody wanted to, if they wanted to divide that 5.3 in half, middle lot could use that driveway for the 4.7.
Correct, yeah. Next one is a similar one. Again, this one is using a shared driveway down the middle of the property, and here's the flag. So many times on flag lots, just because you have a stem doesn't mean you have to put the driveway there. So we have situations in Milton where you have access off one road, but the true frontage is off a separate road. And it gets really crazy, but that's just the way. Sometimes, it's not super often that it happens that way.
So I was going to ask you on the other one, on both of these, then Birmingham Highway becomes the address.
Correct. There's a few things during Fulton County that they did flag lots, and they, like that other example I showed last week or last month.
Well, that was why.
That they had a different name, but typically that's not. Since we've been a city, we really try to keep the addresses off the main street, because it's not a street.
I asked that only because of the next discussion about swimming pools being in front yards. So this helps to know that if their Birmingham Highway is the address, okay, I would assume that the house would face Birmingham Highway.
It doesn't have to. Many times
Okay.
it faces the shared drive
Okay,
or
so-
to the north or the south. So, because we don't have any
But we'd have to
regulations.
determine that after we had seen the
Right.
plot plan.
Right, I mean, every
They
flag
would.
lot or minor plat is different to an extent. I mean, there's some commonalities. So for example, in this situation, this is the front 60-foot front. This is the 25. So, but I don't care which way you put your house. You could have it backwards if you wanted to face a lake on the back end.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But going to our next subject, it becomes important.
Correct, yeah. I mean, you're totally right, yes. We only look at the geometry of it
Right.
when determining what a front yard is.
Right.
So, any other questions on that one? So I'm going to go to a scenario where there's some flag lots in a subdivision. So this subdivision is River's Edge off of Taylor Road. And it's called Lost River Bend. These are fairly large lots. In general, some of them are, I don't know, 5, 10, 5 acres, typically more 2.5 to 3 acres. And so there's a main road that comes through the main spine, and then there's a cul-de-sac at the end, and then there's a shared drive that goes down and access these 3 lots, and then there's actually a weird-looking flag lot that is this triangle right here. So again, I just wanted to show you examples of where flag lots are utilized in the city. This is something that we platted since we've become a city, so I can't just say, oh, it was Fulton County.
This one has 2 flag lot on the
Right.
left side and flag lot
Right,
on the top.
exactly.
Right, it's a double.
Right.
2 and 2.
Yeah,
2 on one road, 2 on the other road?
yeah, 2 on one road, 2 on the other road, yeah. Now, so have you had or seen situations in other jurisdictions where they had a minimum acreage for the flag lots? They all had to be a minimum?
I would have to do some research on it. I don't know.
Okay.
So I can look into that.
We don't have a minimum acreage here, do we?
Well, it would be based upon whatever the zoning
just the
is. So, I mean,
AG1,
people
yeah.
don't typically do flag lots if it's not AG1
Yeah.
or a CUP in the unsewered area. So like, trying to think, Freemanville, not Kingsley. I always get Kinsley and Kingsley. I think Kingsley has a couple of flag lot, no? No, the Hampshires do. The Hampshires, which is just below Kingsley, off of Freemanville. Yeah. So, there have been some that have been done, but it's not. So you don't see flag lots unless they're at least 1 acre lots. So.
Now these 4, these were built after the ones, around it, like 575, 585?
Actually, none of those have been built yet. So what's happened is the development, these lots here, this one, these, all the ones along the main, most of them have been built. So these have not been built, although this one is under permitting right now. And there may be some more, but I do know this odd triangular one did. Now, with that said, they came to the Board of Zoning Appeals a couple months ago to get a variance for setback because of the way it laid out and how they wanted to position their house.
So if these are in AG1, they need to be, and they're septic, they need to have at least an acre.
Correct.
Is the stem considered part of the calculation?
It is, yes. So once you get to the flag, it's going to be less than an acre, depending on, how.
It's got to be.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry?
There's a cap.
Oh, I thought. Right, we don't permit that.
A signed copy that says it's been. Oh, in fact. Half of your lot in the stand.
Right.
So when this, like for instance, this one, when this was brought to the city, did you all know up front that they were going to have to do flag lots for those?
Oh, yeah, I mean, they came with the plat that way. We approved it that way.
Okay.
So when you go down, if you ever drive over there, if you go down this looks like a street. It doesn't look, it's not like it's a gravel driveway or something. It's just, it looks and talks like a street.
Right.
Paved?
It is.
And is that a requirement that stem has to be paved?
With the large lots, minimum 3 acres, we're saying no, they don't have to be paved, but typically in a subdivision like that, they would pave them. So, I mean, many times stems are not paved, like if they're not in a subdivision. So, I mean, I guess you wouldn't have to so long as you met the fire code and the fire truck could go access to the house. But usually when it's in a subdivision, they're gonna pave it. But individual, like 2 or 3 lot, it's very common to have a shared gravel drive.
Now, when this plat was approved, I mean, were there other ways of, building these other houses without having the, flag lot?
I mean, so long as they meet the regulations, it's really hard for us to tell the developer, hey, we don't like it this way. Unless there's just something that they're not meeting the minimum standards of the ordinance as far as the width or the frontage, et cetera. So. So like if this had if it was approved before the time, so we just adopted requiring the preliminary plat to go to Planning Commission, I don't know what, in 2017 or so, and this was done prior to that, you would have an opportunity to look at it and you could make suggestions, hey, is there any other way to deal with this area? But again, you have to remember these are 2 to 3 acre lots. These are not 1 acre lots. So it's not like they're all squeezed in together either. So, okay. So just an example. So I'll get the worst for the last. What I think people are concerned about is this is off of Hopewell. This is off of Hopewell Road, I guess on the west side. And these are a 3 acre parcel that's been subdivided into 1 acre lots. So this is what people can do. So this is how they handle it. It'd be a shared drive, and then you can see this is the 35 feet of frontage. Frontage like a normal lot.
So the 2 of those parcels actually share a driveway, and then the top one has its own little driveway?
Typically, they would share all 3.
All 3?
All 3 would share off one, and then let's say the front one, it would come off and go like that, and then like that.
But then, I forgot again, so in terms of that STEM portion, they all are allowed to use that towards the calculation of 1 acre? Mm-hmm. Even though it's the same, that they're all using it, but...
Right, they can only claim their portion, well, like the front lot doesn't have any stem, but this lot and this lot, yes. They have to calculate. What happens is you start at 35 feet and you can go as narrow as 15 feet, so you don't waste a lot of acreage. And then if you have two 15-feet strips, that's 30 foot, that's more than enough to put a shared drive in. And then you record a cross easement so that you're able to, whether it's your family or eventually you sell off, everything's legal and correct to be able to share that driveway.
Well, looking at this wing, when we're talking about the fire department, you got 3 acres, you got a driveway going back that far.
Right, so...
Would that be the responsibility then of the developer to provide
a water line to a fire hydrant
to the hydrants?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this particular one, is that located above the turnaround
I believe,
roundabout?
yeah, it's further up on the northern end of Hopewell.
So if you eliminated the flag lots, most that you could get out of this particular piece would be 2 lots then.
Yeah, but it would be not a great lot, because then you would end up just cutting it in
Thin
half.
rectangles, right.
Right,
But that's the most you could get out of there.
probably.
Yeah.
Because in AG1, you have to have 100-foot width at the building line. So, yeah.
And all the
Couldn't get a third one
setbacks
out.
and everything they would still be able to get 2 rectangular piece?
Right.
Okay.
But that would really squeeze you because you have 25 feet on each side. I mean, you're like this, shotgun type lot. I mean, relatively.
A good place for a bowling alley.
Exactly.
But this is, to the financial developer, it makes a big difference.
Right, between 2 and 3. So,
Right. So
that's-
chances are that wouldn't end up being 2 lots.
right. So that's why that kind of brings me into something else, and I'll throw these out, and then I'd love to have Scott come up and talk about what he wants to talk about or comments, and then we can kind of go into a discussion.
Before you get off of this, you lost me with the 15 and the 35.
Okay, so what happens
you
is,
said that the stem had to be 35 feet wide,
no, only this part at
the opening at the road.
and then see how it goes in if you go down to 15.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. Okay, so these are just some ideas, and I think some of them actually got, or just some discussions that we've had. So in general, a 1 acre lot. Okay, you could have no flag lots unless they're minimum 2 acres. I'm just throwing that out. Because we know 1 acre lots can, you're really squeezing the lots in, trying to make the most of the property. So, maybe we don't want to eliminate them altogether. Maybe we require minimum 2 acre lots, because when you get to 3 acres, you're in the large lot incentive, where you don't even have to have a road. You just have the shared driveway that doesn't even have to have a flagpole to it. So by default, we already have a mechanism to have 3 acre minimum. They're really not flag lots. So what 3 acre lots may look like is road. Probably not going to be down the middle, but this is the drive. So you see, this is the road, this is 3 acres, this is 3 acres. You don't have to have a stem. You have the modified shared driveway, which is this. You don't have to have frontage for a large lot, for these 2 lots. That's what gives to incentivize people to do the 3-acre minimum lots. Okay?
This is proposed, this isn't the way it is now.
It is now. So this is what we discussed before the last meeting, is that this has been around for about 2.5, maybe 3 years, 2018. Summer of 2018. We approved this whole idea of large lots. And what it means is that if you do 3-acre minimum lots, you don't have to have frontage on a street. And in 2018, we limited it to 5 3-acre lots. Okay? So last month, here at the meeting, we amended, you guys recommended, it's going to City Council on Monday, the 1st, to amend that regulation to make it unlimited, to help incentivize developers to do large lots. So that's what it is. So I kind of look at it as a tier. You know, okay, this is just my thought process. Yeah, okay, no flag lots for 1-acre lots, minimum 2-acre lots. And then you've got the 3-acre that you don't even need to have a stem or a flagpole, because you can create lots without having frontage if it's 3 acres. Okay, so that's kind of like the thought process.
Robin, put that back up a minute,
Okay.
please. So, and you say this is actually already there, but in essence, this could be 6 flag lots.
I shouldn't have put it down the middle.
Oh.
It's not a flat. I just put the shared driveway.
Okay.
That's why even after I wrote
All right.
did it. You're probably not going to have a shared driveway down the middle of a thing like that. So you're probably going to have it more toward one side or the other, because you will. There's actually
gonna say
a
if it's
large
3
lot
acres.
off of Sweet Apple, which is a gravel road,
Right.
and it is a little funky because the driveway is kind of 2/3 up the lot, like it is maybe a little bit further this way. And then so you actually have ownership of both sides of the driveway. And in their instance, they paved it, but it's just a driveway. It's not a road. It's a shared driveway.
So with this many places sharing a driveway, you got to have, it's got to be wider for cross traffic in case people are coming and going at the same time. You couldn't do 15
Right,
feet,
I mean, there's a
right?
minimum, and I'm not sure what it is.
More than
At least
15 feet,
20
though.
feet, 20, that you could, like you said, you could have 2 people. I mean, usually when you only have 3 lots or 4 lots, you're probably not going to be at the same time, or, you'd be nice neighbors and let the other person go, but yes. So, the last thing I just wanted to suggest, and I kind of inferred it from the examples, was, do we want to allow large lots, let's say 5 to 10 acres of the parent lot, and allow a 2-acre lot for the flag lot? In the sense that you have a property owner, a family, and they want to bequeath their child a 2-acre lot to live on. I mean, maybe they can do a normal lot. They don't need to do a flag lot, but maybe it is a very strange rectangle, or where it just makes more sense to have a little bit of a flag lot out of that larger parcel, just like I showed you. Although those were both large lots, but anyway. So do you all have any other questions? And I can let Scott kind of give his 2 cents.
Well, this is kind of a crazy question, but how long has flag lots been years and years in development? Has it?
Yeah. I think it's
Up
very
until-
much a country thing. I mean, it's like, it's a
Well,
way
I
to
know, but that's
subdivide.
why I'm asking the question. I came out of the country, and I just don't remember in my younger days, if you will.
And maybe coming up north, I mean, it's a little bit different. It's different topography.
Well,
It's based on
and it's
townships, and it's very rectangular, so there may not.
Most of them more than 1 acre.
Right. So,
You know why the sister cities have eliminated flag lots? What was the goal in them eliminating the?
I need to find out.
Gotta find it.
That was a question that came up. So I have that on my notes to try to do a little bit of.
Robin, just to calibrate the size of the question we're dealing with here, how many flag lots are there in Milton?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
I mean, you've presented here tonight, there are probably a dozen in your
Right.
presentation. Are we talking about 24 in the whole city, or are we talking about 200?
Oh, there's more than 24. I mean,
2,000?
I don't know. I couldn't start to tell you. I mean, I'd have to have GIS kind of do an analysis, unless
2,000?
out of how many lots. I mean, I can't even tell you how many.
So that's your estimate of existing flag lots? 2,000. Okay, so would it be fair to say that most of them are all built? Okay. And then just taking it one step further, how many lots are out there that could be converted to flag lots? You have a feel for that?
You got all these impossible questions.
Right, well,
And Scott, if you just want to go ahead and put your name on the record.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Scott Reese, Brumlow Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, 30004. So I'm going to back up just a little bit and then get to, so the reason we have flag lots in this area is Fulton County, for whatever reason, and it's all based upon a court case, legalese. So Fulton County, as opposed to any other county that I've ever worked for or done work in, and the municipalities follow the county, have fee simple ownership frontage. You cannot build a house, or could not build a house in Fulton County, and this was my 40-year career and Robin's 5-year career. So every other, like if you want to build in Cherokee County, Forsyth County, Bartow County, Cobb in the old days, Gwinnett, they did easements. And so instead of a flag, you had a 50 or 60 foot easement that started at Public Road A and ran ever how many feet in the back, and your lot just fronted on that easement. But Fulton County, because somehow the easement wording was not correct and someone got blocked from their road that they'd spent all of their life savings on. So they had a house that was accessed via easement, and the easement wasn't completely legalese set, and it turned into a giant nightmare. And the county commissioners from 1940 said, we're not going to have this. So they created a unique situation where every parcel of land in Fulton County, and we're all inheriting. Alpharetta, everybody inherited those rules, depending upon when the city came into their zoning, 50s, 60s, 70s, Johns Creek, Milton now. So you didn't have to use it, but you had to have 35 feet of fee simple ownership to a public street and a strip that narrowed to no less than 15 feet. So if you had a driveway that came off somewhere else and you and your neighbor, turned into a blood war, you had access. You had an alternative. Well, some of those alternatives are across lakes and rivers and all, but you supposedly had fee simple. So that created a unique situation in Fulton County. Roswell, Alpharetta, all the other cities, they inherited this. So that's why you have flag lots here, and the vast majority of subdividing of large tracts that we do in Cherokee, Forsyth, Dawson, any county, is via a 50 or 60-foot easement. And one parcel owns that easement, and everybody else has ingress, egress rights and utility rights, and they don't front on public road, they front on that easement. The legal problems that could occur on that are real. I mean, it's, occasionally you hear war stories of that. So the fee simple ownership is a pretty good, it's rooted in good governance. Now, it's like everything else. There are some other. So that's why you have flag lots, is because you had to have fee simple ownership. You had to own a strip of property to a public road. So no matter if you're 1,000 feet back, you had to have a stem or flag to get a flagpole to get to it. So that's why we have it. Why you don't. So the discussion was earlier. It's what other situations. So it's not a problem in Forsyth, Cherokee, any of those, because they don't have that. They operate under a different set of rules. Alpharetta and Roswell, it was being abused in there because they don't have 1 acre minimums. So they have small, and try to think of, 10,000 square foot lots down stems. But they do have them, but it's because in a lot of their zonings, I just did one in Alpharetta, their minimum lot size or width is 25 feet. So it meets their minimum lot width. So it's 25 feet back to a building space. But they also, Roswell and Alpharetta, their ag lot is 5 acre minimum. So it's a different situation. So it kind of, and there's not a whole lot, but like Coleman Road, some of the stuff that's kind of still semi-rural in Roswell has a good many flags in it. But because of their zonings, Milton trying to be unique, and then Johns Creek still has some rural. That's where the flags are. But in Alpharetta or Roswell, Sandy Springs, if you're in a zoning that only requires you to have 25 feet of lot width, you're already less than the 35. So it doesn't affect. But you're not going to go, say, on the very outskirts of Alpharetta on Mayfield Road, where there's still some 5 acre tracts or whatever. You can't go in with a 35-foot stem on that because it's zoned the way it's zoned. But now if it were rezoned in to, some of the other stuff, then you could do your 25-foot lot. So that's kind of, a quick overview of the cities. I hope that addresses some. I know Robin's going to follow up, but that's where they're. The big thing that we use as a tool with flags is that we can use it to limit infrastructure costs where I can make it feasible for a subdivider. I'm not going to call them a developer because typically it's Fred owns 5 acres. He has a friend that's moving in from California and he's going to sell them 2 acres in the back. It's not Pulte Home, Syntec Home. It's not that situation. It's where, and that way we don't have to put in a street that meets city standards with right of way, water, all of the other stuff because when we go that route, then when we move into major subdivision and with the infrastructure requirements, then the next thing is maximum density. Because then if it's going to cost me X, then I want X squared or cubed number of lots. And it's all economics. So that I'm not going to say never ever, we shied away from them greatly in major subdivisions. Really didn't like to run a road down cul-de-sac and bring off, 6 driveways that went back another 500 feet for an acre lot. It's been done. So, you know, if we're looking at flags and think there are problems, maybe you do limit in the category of major subdivision. So if you're White Columns or Triple Crown or Crooked Creek, do you need a bunch of stems at the end of that? Or, you know, why you didn't. But now if you're in her example earlier, where you're dealing with 3-acre lots or larger or something like that, you know, we spent a lot of toil and sweat to get the large lot incentives in place. And gosh, let's not go backwards there, because we absolutely want to shoot ourselves in the head. We force everybody to build full infrastructure, and then you're going to get minimum lots because economics are such. On minimizing, I think you could, if we all agree there's a problem with flag lots, I don't necessarily think there is, but if there is, we do not near as many now as we did, but in the past, the example she was talking about where we had either children or in-laws or someone where you had a 10-acre tract or a 20-acre tract or 40-acre tract, and you had, you know, a mother-in-law now with a deceased husband and moving, you know, in, and we cut an acre out for her to build a house. We preserved a big tract of land. We kept a family together. So I would hope that you wouldn't put a 2-acre minimum, but maybe you limit it to one time. You get one of those. And, you know, you get one acre cut off on a flag if that's a real problem. If you're going to force it to be 2 acres or 3 acres, maybe then they're like, okay, you know what? Let's just sell this. I hear developer A is looking. Let's sell this. We can trek right over here 5 miles into Cherokee County. We can do exactly what we want to do. I would really hate to see that happen in a lot of cases. Let's keep those 5-acre, 10-acre tracts. If we need to cut off an acre for a family member to build a house, almost wish we had the GIS up. Doris Road is Doris Road because of the flag lots that we did there 15 years ago, 20 years ago, where we cut 5 acres with a driveway and 10 acres with a driveway. Because if we hadn't have been able to do that, then it would be White Column, Triple Crown, because Robin was talking, and I think I feel it more than anybody else in the city. The development pressure on the city of Milton property right now is like nothing that I have ever seen before, because of the misery that's in California, New York, over COVID and the governmental responses to that. My phone rings 12 times a week. Hey, we are looking, and your luxury penthouse is not near as luxurious when you can't go outside, if you can't leave it. So I'm getting calls out of Buckhead because I want 3 acres now. I want to build an outdoor living space. And these are going to be accessed a lot of times, or most of the time, I think, with the flag lots. Let's see. I went through major, minor curb cuts. It's typically 100 feet between drives. You meet Roddy Moats, City of Milton. It's all based upon sight distance, speed limit. How far can I see an approaching car at 3.5 feet of height at the object and at the car? But you don't want 2 driveways stacked because I'm pulling out and you're there. So it's typically 100 feet between. Roddy really pushes you to use joint because it cuts down on the number of curb cuts, cuts down on the number of accidents. All of these roads or driveways, to get a building permit, the definition is it has to be an all-weather road. So it's not necessarily paved, but the fire department will, I mean, they've called me a couple of times, hey, you need to tell so-and-so that their driveway is inaccessible. And they had to scrape it or gravel it or whatever to make it. You have to provide a fire truck turnaround if you're a certain distance from the road. Let's see. I think I went over, that's about it. Anything can be abused. We have a 3-lot minimum. So the worst case scenario is the last one she showed. It's not my favorite either, but it's, the development pressure is now such that what you're going to do as the value goes up, they'll just put a standard city street in and do that if they have to, because the house costs and the land costs have gone to where I don't think you can make anything unbuildable now. It's just the prices that I'm hearing for lots. We're going to have to build a road. We'll shoehorn another lot in, because then once I put the public street in, all I've got to do is meet 1 acre minimums. So I think you're probably looking at things correctly, but look at all. So many times it's the unintended consequences that bite you, and I would hate for the change to make it where it just becomes a developer's buyer's market, that it's not for someone where we get a lot of times 3 friends or family members that call, hey, we're looking, because they want to build a complex or something. And that's, Bethany Road. Most of the roads that really you feel the Milton character, if you did a Fulton County tax assessor's search and looked, you're going to see stems going back, and 5 acre and 6 acre and 10 acre parcels, and that's how they were created. Because if you would have had to have put a public street in, they would have been 1 acre lots. So that's everything. I deal with it every day, and there is a lot of good in it, and maybe there's a little bad. Maybe we need to look at limiting it in the major subdivisions, and if you want to, say, we really don't want, you're limited to 3, and really you'd only have 2 necessarily flags, because you're always going to have the front. But wouldn't hurt my feelings, because I would like to preserve the ability of a family member to buy an acre off, or be deeded an acre off. You're not doing the city or your citizens any favors by killing that. All right, thank you for your time. I've always thought you guys were a very deliberative board, put in the time and effort to look at things. So I don't always say it, but I appreciate what you do. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Coming back up, Robin.
Really helpful, that history.
Absolutely.
That's why they don't save me time calling the other jurisdictions about that. So
Plan his.
I know. You remember? I said
no.
you shouldn't have come, because I didn't want him to have to do
I
the
guess,
speech.
are we treating that as like a public comment, I guess?
Yes, it was a public comment. Yeah. No, it wasn't staged.
I think he put a different, at least in my mind, a little different slant on how I felt coming in here.
Mm-hmm.
Quite honestly.
Contractor? You a contractor?
He's a developer.
Yeah.
Well, he works. He's a surveyor,
He's a surveyor,
land
yeah.
planner. So that is what he Brumbelow Reese, they're over on Highway 9, but Rodney Reese is the actual surveyor, stamp person, but he works with property owners to help them develop their land. So he's not like a developer. He's the one who comes up with the land plans to subdivide or combine, depending on what the situation is. So
And I feel, in the years sitting here, he's been a value to us in the planning.
He's got a lot of history of what's
And
going on, how we got to where we are.
Tell you, I'm totally against what you're talking about. He'll come right out like this. He'll say, I think we should have flag lots, but, I don't think he's for just open it up and anybody put a flag lot in.
But I think he brought up a good point too about, again, if you can do a little comparison research into the other cities, and like he was talking about where, if there are 5 acre minimums over there, or if they don't have 1 acre minimums in Alpharetta, and that was potentially one reason why, and that again gives us a little bit more understanding as to why things are done in other jurisdictions and maybe why they eliminate it and maybe why we're doing it.
Yeah, I think what I was thinking when I was hearing him talk is, we definitely can do that, but I think, too, we need to see that we're very unique. I guess it gives a perspective why other cities do things, but I think it helps to understand the history of it. And, so I think we should look at it in a way that's unique to us. And what are the city's goals? What is it that
But
we're
yeah, but I
trying to
think
do?
again, if we obviously we're unique, but then I think that'll still help in understanding if we're okay with this, and this is also going to contribute to the uniqueness, or even based on that information, we still feel like it's in our best interest to no longer have flag lots. I don't think it's going to hurt. I
Right.
think it's
No,
gonna
I know. I'm
help
just saying.
the analysis and kind of developing what the goal might be.
The interesting part of his conversation for me was the fact that if you remove the flag lots, you're actually going to do just what you don't want to do, which is end up with a lot of small lots because developers are going to pave a street and then put as many small lots as they can into it because of the cost.
Right. And in our case,
1 acre lots, though.
1
There's
acre,
gonna be 1
yes.
acre
But
lots.
I will say, you all will be seeing the English property, which is on Mayfield near Bethany. And there's a beautiful piece of property. It's, and so we can't keep people from doing exactly that, meeting the minimum. And so that's when you're going to see this preliminary plat, it'll be to the ordinance, but because money tends to be the bottom dollar, the goal, even though the developer will say, well, these are going to be multi-million-dollar homes, this is going to be this is going to be that, but he still has 100-foot wide lots, which when you start to look at 100-foot, maybe 110 feet, but we really wanted him to do 150 feet because then you have a good beefy lot where you have enough room for a nice side entry garage, plus you just have more room to do things with in the back, whether it's the pool house, it's, whatever. The cabana, the fire pit, not that a fire pit really makes a difference, but outdoor kitchen. So, I think it's to that point where it's just really hard. When you're thinking, well, we need to have really great subdivisions, and they're really hard to come by because money is really the driving force of, like Scott said, it's how many lots can we yield out of this property. Not the same thing, but an example, there's a piece of property on Crabapple Road going west, right before you get to Green Road. It's Thor, like dog trainer, I don't know if you ever notice it. It's like there's like a railing, it's just funky, and they have all different obstacles for the dogs. So that's about I think it's six acres, and it's a family that owns it, and their daughter is a realtor, and she's been marketing it for like 3 to 4 years. And the price is pretty hefty. And I thought, oh, wow, she called me, says, we got a developer, we got somebody. Well, I thought, well, maybe finally somebody can make this work, right? So it's a tract developer who wanted to do townhomes. They wanted to so it's T4, so you get 5 units per acre, right? And you could buy TDRs to get to 9 units per acre. So 9 times 6 is what?
54.
Right. So you're like, okay, isn't that enough? No. He wanted to upzone it to T5 to get 14 units per acre. And I'm like, I told her, I said, that's not going to happen. And she goes, thank you. But that's all they look at is the numbers.
Sure.
It's like, that's not going to happen. So you're going to need to go somewhere else. So either that, and she needs to lower it's been up on the market for 4 years. So eventually she'll figure out that to get the development that's going to fit, unless things just go crazier and crazier. Maybe they're smart. I don't know. But anyway, I digress. So.
So let me ask you another question. So again, if we were to eliminate it, and let's say some of those situations where you've got the multiple, large acreage or whatever, let's say you don't have you can't do a flag lot, and they want to put in a street. So, and I'm trying to visualize this. So is it basically like, let's say we're going down the main road, Hopewell, and then there's a street there that's got 3 or 4 homes and like a cul-de-sac, and like that's what would potentially happen if they have to put in a public street.
Right. It would be short stuff.
Short little
3,
4 homes or something in a
and
street.
to be honest, it really, economies of scale, you really, really need at least 10 acres to be able to develop 7 houses, because you have to put a detention pond in, you have to put in your public street. So that's, some people come to me and say, hey, I got 6 acres and I want to do 5 houses. And I'm like, I'm sorry. One, you have to do a major subdivision, you're going to have to put a street in, and that costs money and all the infrastructure that Scott talked about. You have to do detention on a separate lot. And then once you put in all these infrastructure and the money and investment, it doesn't make sense even to get 4 or 5 lots out of 6 acres, right? But what we're trying to say, if you have 6 acres, that's still only 2 lots, but so you just really, that's why the flag lots are, if you have 5 acres, you could subdivide it into 3, whatever, divide it up in different size lots. They're going to be larger than 1 acre. Well, they could be. So that's what I think Scott is talking about. So you really need more than 10 acres for a subdivision, at least at this point, to make work financially. That's what I've seen. That's like the tipping point, 9 to 10 acres.
So what are the negatives of flag lots? I'm still sitting here scratching my head. What are the negatives of flag lots? I see some positives. I just don't understand what the negatives, what the downsides are right now.
I think a lot of people are trying, like that last example that Robin gave, the 3 acres and the boom, boom, 111 right there.
But again, I view that almost the opposite. Otherwise, in that example, instead of having one home you can see I look at curb cuts and I look at the view shed as you're driving down Hopewell. Do I want to see, in that case, it had been 2 homes on 2 very skinny lots? Or would I rather see 1 home and a driveway and 1 driveway? I would probably prefer to see 1 home and 1 driveway for the view shed driving down. That's why I'm sitting here going, what is the downside of flag lots?
So if in the beauty you're talking about, if you only have 1 house and not the other 2 behind it, you'd have 1/3 of the density on that.
We're talking about putting 2 houses on that, so you have 2/3 of the density. So it'd be 1/3 more, yeah.
I agree with you, Kurt. I think it's going to be good to hear what the other cities say, why they eliminated them.
And again, how much potential do we have for that? If we say a flag lot's, 5 acres or whatever, how many are we really talking about? We've said that, according to Scott, we're 99% built out on flag lots. How many new flag lots? You're saying, maybe a couple dozen, I think is the number that was thrown around before?
We don't, I mean,
Well,
I
that's,
think,
seems to be.
Well, I think that's a
talking about
question. I
recent-
mean, yeah, I mean, what's being examined now, I mean, what might be in for review, I think there's 2 or 3 developments that are flag lot type developments, one of which we convinced them they wanted to do a regular subdivision, again, to that 6 acre, 7 acre. And I said, it's not going to work. You're going to put all this investment and you're not going to get it out. So we convinced them to go down to 3 lots. And they are flag lots, but they're 2.5 acre flag lots. So so in a way, in that situation, they're proposing less density than when they walked in the door and saying, I want to do a major subdivision with 5 lots or 4 lots.
Well, then we could say, basically, that, how many acres for a flag lot. In other words, and I think that's what Scott was saying.
Mm-hmm. Look, if you look at an acre, I had to look it up, but Scott said that we need 36,000 square feet.
Right, so that's like a 2/3 of an acre, kind of.
Right, and a whole acre is like 43.
43560, yeah.
So, again, if you look at how many flag lots of an acre, if they're 3/4 or 2/3 is the livable area, and the flag can only be up to a, 10,000, 8,000 square feet or something like that.
Right, yeah. I mean, the bigger the overall lot is, the longer the stem can be.
So, I mean, do we need, is that self-governing? Does that say, hey, I need to have a 2 acre lot to make this stem work because I need a bigger space for my septic? I don't know.
Well, it's back to your recommendation that you showed. What was, you want to put that back up, please?
It just takes a little bit to
okay.
swap.
There we go.
So again, these are just suggestions, just because I know that when you get to 3 acres, it's taken care of with a large lot. And
Like going back to Scott's, I could see allowing 1 acre flag lot per. Would that be a solution that would help, again, allow families, it's the apple pie and and all, but I mean, it would allow at least a little bit of flexibility without having a dramatic impact density-wise or anything.
I mean, it would have to be a very odd kind of lot if you had 10 acres and you really had to do a flag lot. It's hard for me to understand that you wouldn't have enough frontage to have at least 100 feet. I mean, I'm not saying it's not there. I'm sure there's some really odd kind of lots out there, but it's
A pie-shaped lot, with the
on a cul-de-sac.
small part on the road.
Yeah, on a road, yeah. No, I know. And there can be rectangular, deep lots. They're definitely out there. But at the same time, when you have 5, 7, 8, 10 acres, sure, I mean, it's probably fairly rare that you're going to end up having to have a flag lot, that you wouldn't have enough frontage on that big of a lot. I don't know. Maybe, who knows?
Rob, we've talked a lot about cutting out an acre and giving it to the kids. How often is that done? Is that a big thing, or are we talking about the just very small exceptions?
So what happens is old school people would just go to their real estate attorney and do sell by deed and have a deed written up and have it recorded, and then the tax office will look at it and say, okay, this is a new tax parcel, but that's not a legal way of subdividing land. You have to have it surveyed, you have to, carve it out,
right.
Submit it to the jurisdiction that you're in, we review it, make sure everything is correct, and then it goes before in our case, City Council for a consent agenda. It gets blessed, then they record it to Fulton County Superior Court, and it's officially subdivided.
I'm just trying to figure out how frequently do we have the kids getting an acre? Is this because we're talking about trying to accommodate them, and I'm just trying to figure out if this is a big problem where we need to spend a lot of brain power, or whether it's pretty small and we can figure it out on an exception basis.
How often that occurs?
Yeah.
I mean, again, I can start to tell. I mean, we'd have to do an analysis. I mean, that would be probably pretty laborious to do it, but I mean, I think it's fairly frequent. I mean, there are people who come in as families or relatives wanting to have, properties subdivided for their family.
I know of 3 on Hopewell Road within 2 miles of our subdivision where they subdivided enough room. So actually, the children got the farmhouse, if you will, and built another house behind that for the mother.
Crazy question. Could something like that be handled with an easement? You
No.
said the downside of the easements are,
Right.
you get disputes, but if it's a family member, does
No.
that... No.
And that's
Okay.
where we have some lots that never went through a platting process that were given through deed and recorded. I mean, you can have a paper napkin with your phone number recorded at Superior Court at Fulton County. I mean,
That's probably the way
But just going to Ron's, how many are we talking about here? I think we're talking about for the family member, a very
Right.
small.
I mean, the only other option is that we do allow guest houses for relatives up to 1,500 heated square feet. So if you have a property of 2 acres or 3 acres or 1 acre, and you have your house there and you want your parents to come move in, but you don't really want them in your house, so you put them in the 1,500 heated floor area, you can build a structure that's legal, but it's still part of the same property.
Has to be behind the main house.
Yes.
I looked into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The tree farm, Hunter Tree Farm on Wood Road, I know Gordon gave some property to one of his daughters, and they built a house on Wood Road.
Right.
Now, it's 3 acre minimum, so they've got a bunch of property over there.
Right. And I mean, even for them, they're looking to, in the future, to subdivide. They have a lot of acreage. They've come to us in the past to say, how can we subdivide some more
Right.
to give to their children? So,
Right.
What was your question, Jen?
But on that type of arrangement you're talking about, that guest house still belongs to the original deed holder.
Correct, exactly. I'm just saying
So you can't give over the...
yeah, you can't, yeah. I mean,
It's on the same property.
you would still have, let's say if you had 2.5 acres and you had this house built 10 years ago and then you decided, hey, I want to subdivide it. You could probably figure out how to subdivide it in such a way to split the lot. But that's not always true. But it's just an option for people that they can have, and a lot of people do that.
Well, I don't want to throw another thing out, but what about all this growth of tiny houses?
So with tiny houses, AG1 has no minimum heated floor area, but the building code requires a certain minimum square footage of living area, which is around 500 or 600 square feet. Okay? So you can put a 600 square foot house on an acre, but typically that's not very economical.
Well, I only say that because a friend of mine, who is in our Lions Club, built a tiny house for his daughter. And they're in Forsyth, again.
Yeah. And I don't know,
Totally different
sometimes
situation.
tiny houses are on chassis, and so we don't recognize that at all,
No.
or whether it's on a foundation.
Foundation.
Yeah. But you can have a tiny house on 1 acre, or you can have a tiny house as your guest house,
Right.
but, so.
Robin, we've talked about large lot development, and we've talked about the flag lots. Can you use, are these two competing ways of, could you use flag lots to build a large lot development? And if you did, would it be cost competitive with the large lots as we've defined them now and regulated them?
Well, I think it depends on the size of the flag lots, because that's what I'm saying, is that once you get to a larger flag lot, it's kind of a moot point. So to me, it's apples and oranges. We're looking at the large lots, and then we're looking typically, not all the time, but we're looking typically at flag lots and how does that impact, the development of the city. And I think that point of the last example, you have 3 lots stacked on each other on exactly 3 acres. To me, that's very different than 3 3-acre lots.
Yeah. But if I hear you right, the benefits of large lots that we give to large lots would outweigh doing a bunch of flag lots.
Well, it's still going to cost more. You're still going to end up typically, that's why I'm saying it's kind of apples and oranges. When somebody looks to do large lots, they're doing it because that's what they really want to do and they're willing to have the money, It's per acre. I mean, it still costs money versus somebody who's doing flag lots, they're looking at the bottom line typically. Not all the time. I gave examples where there were other different kinds of flag lots, but in those instances, they could have done a large lot.
Right.
And not even had a flagpole.
So going down the path of large lots gives you more flexibility.
Right.
So you have one large parcel, you could do it as flag lots or you could do it as large lot. The large lot benefits, as far as the flexibility, outweigh doing it on a flag lot.
Correct.
basis.
If they're a similar size, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, but I mean, that was until 2018, you couldn't have a shared driveway. You had to do a flagpole like what Scott described, that Fulton County changed the regulations, unlike other counties around us that do easements. And we still have, I mean, even with cross easements, we still have kind of wars between property owners and disagreements about that easement and was it valid or did it expire or no. I mean, even with a flag lot with a cross easement, there still can be issues. So,
But that shared driveway, can it be like, it's like on the top, like it looks like a flag lot, or is the shared driveway, does it?
It could, it could be on one side and really basically be a pseudo de facto flag lot, yes. They just don't have to have those 35 feet of frontages on the bottom. It could just be one road or one driveway. And so let me throw in, and it's not a wrench, it's just a regulation, for you to understand the difference, what a minor plat is. A minor plat in our ordinance says, let's say if you had 10 acres and you subdivided it, let me make it 5. You have 5 acres and you subdivided it into a 1 acre lot. Do my math. Let's say 2 1-acre lots and a 3-acre lot, okay? For 3 lots. You got to do minor plat, you just got to do administratively, didn't have to come to you to get your permission. It's a minor, so because by definition, a minor plat is 3 lots or less if it's less than 3 acres in size, okay? So let's say 3 years down the line, let's say they were relatives. And they're like, hey, but I want Aunt Sue to come and live with us in the same compound. Let's subdivide that 3-acre lot into another 1 and 2-acre lot. So then you have 4 lots. No. Our ordinance says you cannot make a minor plat out of a minor plat. Okay? So just FYI. So if you think, oh, wow, if we have these larger flag lots, well, again, if it's 3 acres or more, they carte blanche pretty much. But if you had that scenario of 5 acres and you just wanted to split a 3 acre into 2 1.5 acres, you couldn't do it unless you did a major subdivision where you would have to put a detention pond on a separate lot. So then you just lost some acreage. You'd have to put in a street, infrastructure. So it's not to say you can't subdivide it, but it's going to cost a lot more money in development cost.
Kind of a one and done.
Right. So when I have people come and they have bigger than 1 acre lots, so you need to understand this is your last time to subdivide unless you do a major subdivision.
What are the next steps on,
What's that?
what is the next step on this?
I mean, I think if you want me to go back and do some research that you've asked me to do, I can do that. I don't know if this is something that you might want to take to CPAC, the rest of the group, maybe to have a discussion with. And then we can just go from there. It's up to you all.
At the end of the day, are we going to be making a recommendation?
I mean, if you feel like that's what I
I think so.
I think it should have another discussion at CPAC. We're in that process right now.
Right.
Absent that process, I'd say we should go forward, but whatever we want to do. But I think because there are a bunch of broader questions we're asking. Look and feel of Milton, and part of that could be.
okay. Yeah, no, that's.
Maybe you could have Michelle add it to our homework assignment for tomorrow.
Yeah, we don't have enough to do.
I know. I know you guys get so much. You feel like you're back in college or something, right?
Finished reading?
At least you get videos, though.
Yeah.
How many
Hours of videos.
How many of you have finished reading all of the
Then we'll form a study group.
of the last go
The cliff
around
notes, yeah.
that I sat through?
And your wife probably says, Fred, have you gone back to college or something?
Yeah, I'll just have to do recall.
We're due on
Fred,
Oh, we did it
Frank the Tank, back in college. Okay.
Well, cool. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, it was.
Was,
Okay, cool.
and Scott's was helpful.
Yes, I'm very glad he came, even though I was giving him a hard time in the beginning.
Different
Yeah,
I knew
You've kind of got you understand some of the questions that we would like.
Yeah, I wrote them down when you first, so that's fine.
Okay.
but I must admit, I come in here looking pretty set on one of my head now. Changes my mind a little bit.
Okay,
So we'll see what CPAC says.
Right.
great. Okay, well, with that said, we can go to the next item. Text amendment regarding
So
the
before
pools.
so at the next actual meeting, we would either if we were satisfied that we've heard it from the CPAC and where they're going and that, then we would.
I mean, I think
Take
I'll
that
come back with the
recommendation.
information I can get to you and, try to do
Yeah,
some
that'd be helpful.
analysis
So we would know, have to defer it for another month.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, so we wouldn't have to defer it.
Right, I think we
Another
could
month.
defer this one another time, another month.
Right.
And we do have we have a little rezoning next month. It's CUP to AG1, and it's a 10-acre plus property that they want to be able to do a winery, not necessarily a commercial winery to have people come, but for them to get their state winery license, they have to be zoned AG1. So anyway,
Good.
it's so
Where's
be,
that?
Interesting.
That's good.
yeah.
Where is that?
Oh, gosh. Okay, off of New Providence on the east side, what is it? Plantation, what is it? Anyway, you go in the Lakeside Plantation or Plantation something, and you go in the road and it meanders, and then it changes names, and they're really huge lots in the back. So, I'm sorry. I'm bad with names, but you'll get to see it. We had CZIM. It's online right now, so if you want to look at it, if you go to yesterday's date to the Community Zoning Information Meeting packet, it'll have the location, it'll have the application. So if you just don't have enough reading material with CPAC, you can go and look at it. So.
Right. Oh, back to flag lots a second. I asked the question earlier about, how much of Milton could be converted into flag lots. I know it's a daunting number. We have 2,000 already, flag lots. But I think, just to try to motivate the conversation that this is a large number of potential flag lots that could be out there.
Okay.
I think, some attempt to say, hey, 20% of Milton could be converted into flag lots so that people can begin to say, oh, coming along with that are density issues and what have you, so that they can understand the importance of it, because otherwise we're looking at on a onesie-twosie basis. And if we just look at the history and what's in the pipeline currently, and yet we hear that there are developers knocking on the door,
right.
This might just go like that.
So I would ask that we kind of limit it to the smaller parcels, maybe 3 to 4 to 5 acres, because if you start, there's so many options.
Well, at that point, larger would be going probably into flood development, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe like 5 acres and below. I mean, 3 to 5 acres parcels that would possibly do. I think that might be a good start to look at.
Yeah, would just be a ballpark.
Because I think once you start getting, like you said, once you start getting larger lots, we don't really care, right? I mean,
Right.
So, okay, that sounds like the marching orders. So with RZ 21-03, do you guys want to make a motion to defer, or do you want to talk about that more specifically?
Open the floor up.
What would we gain by deferring?
Pardon?
What would we gain by deferring? The last time I made the argument that this isn't flag lots.
I'm sorry, what?
Last time I made the argument that this is an incentive for flag lots, and so let's park it. Even at admittedly, it was sort of a marginal thing that would give an incentive for flag lots or be supportive of flag lots. And, I'm not so sure any longer that holding this thing up, at least from my perspective, is going to make a big difference.
Right, yeah. I mean, you all can, I'm
You
sorry,
know,
I didn't mean
just-
to like lead you one way or the other,
It's just
so
me
whatever,
talking.
which way you guys
Whatever
want to
you
go.
Yeah, do you want Robin to go through this a little bit more again? Restate it again?
No, but
Or do we want to have a discussion just?
Yeah, I'd like, my discussion, and Robin made it, I feel clear, but I'm still confused on this identifying what is a back lot, a side lot, and
You mean
a
the
front-
yards, okay.
A yard.
Okay. we
Because
can-
in my argument going and looking at this, one question I had, what is the on the example that you used, what's on the left-hand side of this 60-foot flag
It's
lot?
another lot.
It is another lot. Okay. So we're saying that the front of that house faces to the major road.
Well, not necessarily. So if you look at this example, and I'd have to bring it up, but what I do remember, so if you look at the house that I have as example, their front door is looking down or down,
Down the bottom of the.
down toward the bottom
Down
of
the
the
bottom.
page.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
And their side, what they would be considering side is really technically by geometry, their fronts. So what I'm saying is the next lot over
Right.
is probably facing, because this is a little different that they called it they had a road name, I can't remember what it is. So they're acting like that shared driveway is a street in this scenario, okay? So
Okay.
the next lot to the left
Yes.
is facing that, just like this one is, it's facing toward the drive. So even though the pool is technically in the front, it's really behind even that
Right.
other house.
Right.
So, again, not all scenarios are the same.
Now, that's,
They could, if it was a little bit bigger lot, they could be facing, the backyard to their backyard, or their front is facing the next person's backyard. It could be positioned that way, or it could be positioned, looking north or going up. That's why we don't make a regulation of which way the house has to have their front door.
I
We just
understand.
look at the geometry of the shape of the lot.
so we're basically saying that there will,
It just leaves an option, it's an option, because again, if you read the verbiage of the, gee whiz, I hope I included it. Right. I don't know if I made that copy. I don't think I did. So the actual verbiage that was there,
Want to see mine?
sure. Flip back to the. So, it says under B1, detached dwellings, swimming pools shall be allowed inside and rear yards of single-family dwellings in any district. In addition, swimming pools may also be allowed at the back of the house on a double frontage, single-family lot. So typically, you'll have a subdivision, the internal street, and you may back up to like Freemanville Road. So that's a double frontage, but you can put your pool in the back. And then it goes on to say, or in the front of the house or in the front yard on a flag lot, provided such alternative location is approved by the department, which shall approve the location if the purpose of the zoning ordinance is maintained with the proposed location. So basically, it's just saying, if it makes sense. So it doesn't mean just because somebody asks for it, doesn't mean that they're going to get it, because it's to the discretion of the department.
What determines an appropriate location?
So I think the example I gave was a pretty good example, because even though they want to put the pool in the front, technically
Really,
in the
look-
front yard, it really is on their
Could-
side to rear
Right.
yard. in
Is
practicality.
it the neighbors or?
Robin, do you mind putting it up on the screen?
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
I agree. What is the issue we're trying to solve here?
What's that?
I agree. What is the issue we're trying to solve?
Yeah, I
Putting a pool up against your neighbor's yard, or?
Well, so if you look at this, and remember I talked about how in this scenario, and it's not every scenario, but in this scenario, the houses are facing this paved shared driveway. It's almost their de facto street.
and that's going across the bottom there.
Right, this.
Okay.
Yeah,
And where's the main road?
out here. This
Oh,
is
okay.
So those,
perpendicular. Okay, so here we have the front of their house. what they consider the front door, the front, not the true front. But you see how I've demarcated the 60-foot front of what's technically the front yard, but their pool is right here in the front yard. But it really isn't in the front yard.
Right.
It's really in their backyard.
Oh, see.
Correct.
Because the house is facing,
The house is
not facing the street, right?
That's my point.
All you're doing is, you're still giving department the right to say, yes, this works, or no, it doesn't.
Right. And so let me tell you, let's say if for some reason the homeowner is just not happy with the community development director's decision, they have an appeal process. That appeal process is to take it to the Board of Zoning Appeals for what's called a secondary variance. It's not a variance to a setback, like 60 feet to 50 feet of a front yard. What it is, it's an appeal of the decision of the community development director. And so they kind of have different process to do that. But that's their appeal process if they just totally do not agree with the director's decision.
But down below that, when you go down, what's down there? There's no street or nothing?
This is just the next lot, whatever
Okay.
parcel might be next to it.
And that whole parcel that's just one lot, one property, one parcel.
Right, to the south of it, or down
And
below.
but the one that we're looking at, that's just one property.
This is just one.
One whole.
And then there's going to be another one here. And then I don't know if there's, actually, this is like this is a turnaround, so I think this is in the middle. So I think there's another lot. See, this is what they created a pseudo turnaround. It's a turnaround for the fire. So I believe there's another lot on top of here. So this house is probably facing somewhat like that. They've basically created their own street, but it's not really a public street. It's a shared driveway, but it looks like a street.
And so, like you were saying, I think if you can just, they were okay with building that house where their front faced. They could do that.
Yeah.
You could do that. That's not a
Right,
problem.
so
It
what
doesn't
I'm
have
saying-
to,
yeah,
the front
it
doesn't have
doesn't-
to face
Right.
the main road, I guess, or the
Right.
road.
So this is the front, and it was pretty tight because 60-foot, 50-foot rear. This is the rear. So you can see how their house is pretty narrow, relatively, because they only had a certain footprint they could fit in. And then this is a side, is 25.
So really, the discussion is giving community developer the right to make the decision on flag lots.
Right, that's
Correct?
what the ordinance
That's
is
what
saying.
Swimming pools.
Right, on swimming pools.
Right.
Will that change? Do you mind putting that red line back up again for the change that you're
Yes.
proposing?
I apologize.
Well, am I saying, my feeling is that
But if you make the change, if you were to take out the flag lot language, is this back to handling this for a flag lot only?
It's
or-
only for flag
only for
lots.
flag lot.
It already
'Cause
makes
the
that allowance for double frontage,
Okay.
okay? And so the red line is adding in the decision of looking at it when it's a part of a flag lot in the front yard.
Because the ordinance is already there,
Yeah, we're just amending it to include a
flag lot.
The front of a flag lot. Right now, it includes the front of, it allows a pool, because you have to remember, well, I don't know if you know, but pools and pool decks can be as close as 10 feet from the property line. It supersedes the primary setback line. So that's why you can, that's why the pool is so close, even closer than 25 feet away from the side property line, but it's still technically in the front yard.
But, so whenever it says, or in the front of the house, and if we don't have the next phrase, again, the next phrase only brings in the flag lot part. What if you just had or in the front of the house, what does that do then? If you didn't have the next thing that says or in the front of a yard of a flag lot? How is that different?
I think in the front of the house, in this case, would be, off the porch versus the yard. I think that's in there.
Oh, because the front of the house is by the
Correct. It's not
porch.
we're calling the front of it something that they're not calling the front of it.
He's kind of oriented his house to the driveway. The front of the house faces the driveway in.
Let's see, it's almost like it's double, or in the front of the house.
Yeah,
So,
I'm wondering if that's
or
even.
in the front yard on a flag lot, provided such alternative location is approved. House on a double frontage single residential lot, or in the front of the house, front yard, flag lot. So I'm not sure that might be extra, that or in the front of the house.
Right.
I think that's
I don't think that's
extra, that we
needed.
would
Yep.
eliminate that part if you want to proceed, because I think that's redundant. Well, it's not necessarily redundant. I don't think it's accurate.
Yeah, because you don't want to have a pool necessarily have a pool in the front of the house. The whole point of the double frontage is because the back where the pool is normally is facing a road there, so that's the double frontage part. But
Right.
to allow the pool to just be in the front of the house,
Which, it's a funny thing. The Board of Zoning Appeals just approved a house in the front of the house, a pool in front of the house on a gravel road. But it's a pretty big lot. Anyway, it's very interesting. We just went bonkers when we first saw it, but,
Well, that was what I was going to say. I thought, after rereading this, I thought the ordinance said that swimming pools shall be allowed only inside and rear yards of single-family dwellings in any district.
that's
That was-
true. The
That's
side
not
or
what
the
this
rear.
says.
But you have to think about geometry of the side or the rear. So in this case,
Well,
the side or the rear doesn't work in this case.
right.
Because the side, rear is here. I don't know, they may have septic on this side. I don't know.
Right. But our original ordinance, as I understand, and you just said, I guess it was overruled, was that it could only be.
Right, so in that case, on that gravel road, they made a argument the only logical place for the pool was in front of the house.
Okay, so my reading
And they had to
is
get a variance
correct.
for that. You're exactly right.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I wasn't,
well, that's all right.
yeah.
So, the only other, one other thought about this, again, is in regards to the whole flag lot, depending on where the discussion goes for a flag lot, number one, obviously, if hypothetically it were to be eliminated, but number two, if there were to be restriction or, other conditions into what's considered a flag lot, do we need to make sure that that's figured out first before you all of a sudden say, hey, this swimming pool can be allowed potentially in a flag lot, and there's no other conditions that may be developing in terms of what we may allow for a flag lot?
Flag lot.
And does that need to be figured out first before all of a sudden we just say, hey, blanket, this can be allowed and the department can decide what they want to do?
But this is for all existing flag lots too, so we got 2,000.
Right, so, and
we got
that's what I was going to
2,000
say,
lot-
whether
you know,
you
flag
change
lots
the
out there, but
rules
now
of
that if
how
you
a
wanna add
flag
pool,
lot is.
You have to have something.
I don't think a flag lot, even if you just massage it some and make certain regulations. A flag lot's always going to be a flag lot. There's, I'm not so sure it's going to impact it much. And then, like you were saying, there's lots of existing flag lots. So if somebody decided, like in this case, this flag lot was created 15, 16 years ago. So now they're just deciding to put a pool in. So.
But have you had a lot of requests like this before
No.
in the past?
Actually, there has been a couple in the last year and a half
On flag lots.
on flag lots. Not exactly the scenario, but the same type of scenario where, again, it was a flag lot in a subdivision in the Hampshires, because they have kind of funky lots. And so you'd have to see it for me to explain it, but it was the same scenario where if you put it where you could put it, it would be like in front of their house.
Yeah, and then I think all of us would agree we wouldn't want that.
Right. And again, it's by departmental approval. So again,
It's, case by case basis.
We're just saying that to give them the authority or the rights to approve this, if
Right.
if that makes sense.
But, and again, even to get it out of a situation where they don't agree with what the department has to say and, try to appeal it, if it doesn't even meet the requirements of, hey, where you want to place this pool and now you're infringing on these setbacks or whatever for the neighboring property, then they won't even get to this point, right?
Right. I mean, if we think would be encroaching or impacting the neighbor in a negative way, then we would probably say no to it.
No, but I'm just saying, even for you to you don't even have to say no, because if they're like, hey, I want to build this pool this way, and you're like, well, you are now, over these setback lines.
Well, it usually doesn't happen, as long as it's in the correct yard. Like I said, you can have a pool and pool deck 10 feet from your property line. So that's pretty close. That's usually not the problem.
No, so for instance, if, that last example that you gave us where you have, 3 1-acre lots, flag lots, and all of a sudden they all want to do pools, is that going to be okay? How is that going to look?
Well, I think if they're positioned the same way, where the houses are facing here, they want their pool here, where it's a front, just like this one, they're just changing the configuration and making the shared driveway be the road instead of the main road that's out here left. I mean, again, it would be a case by case. We just have to look at each situation. Maybe it would be a bad situation, maybe it wouldn't. Like in this case, it's not. If the next house, for whatever reason, was facing the other way and their backyard was there, that's still not necessarily a bad thing, because a lot of people have backyards to backyard. I mean, they could put their pool there and then this guy's pool's there in the back, just like any other subdivision. I don't know.
Let's go back to the red lines again. Just one quick question on that, because we were talking about, was the wording or in the front of the house
Right, so
required? But
this section.
Right, but that actually, the way I read it, refers to the house on the double frontage.
But see, the problem is I have it in red line means that I added it.
Okay. But again, that does not, in my understanding, the way I read this with the commas and all, that does not refer to the flag lot. That refers to the double fronted single-family residence that precedes that statement.
I mean, I'd have to look to see what the original, unless I kind of.
Does that make, am I reading that correctly?
I think you're right, but again, I think if it's a double frontage and you're talking about the pool in the back, that have nothing to do with anything in the front.
Right, but according to this, if we add that, we're saying we could put it in the front of.
Yeah, because you would still never, let's say if you had a house backing up to Freemanville and it faces interior subdivision street, you would put the pool on the Freemanville side, not in front of the house or in the front.
Okay, but that's saying you could. According to the way I read this, it's saying may also be allowed at the back of the house on a double frontage, single-family residence, or in the front of the house, comma.
Sometimes if I go and erase something accidentally, it
Track it or-
it makes it red when I redo it, so let me just make sure.
But reading that, does that make sense? In addition, comma, swimming pools and, he's taking "and" out, right? Okay. Now that I look at it, I can see it was red.
That's, yeah.
I
It was
reread
added,
it.
then it was taken out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a double negative.
I do, let's put this here. Back of the house on a double front. So it never, that was my extraneous sentence or phrase. So I think you're right, it doesn't make sense, so.
Here's another question, just sorry. On a double frontage, single-family resident, how do you decide which road is the front of the house?
That was my original.
Yeah, how do you,
Why,
because again, if I've got.
Yeah, you
Freemanville
could
here-
technically have the front of the house facing the main exterior road. I guess it's just common sense. I mean, and we don't, yeah, I mean, usually when somebody backs up, they're gonna,
No, but isn't
Yep,
the front
that-
wherever the front of the house is?
but what he's saying is technically the front is on the interior street. So when it says you can be in the
Right.
front,
So if you had a street running here, you had Freemanville and the subdivision road right here, and you were in the middle.
right,
Why couldn't I have Freemanville as my address? Have that be the front of my house then? Or
right.
the subdivision road and have that be the front?
And it could
Don't
be
have
a
no
rear
addresses,
loaded,
right?
I mean, it could- but typically it's more the other way around.
But once you have the front, you've picked one, then this is saying you can allow, the pool can be on the back. You've now picked at least one side, at some point you've determined that this is the front, so now you know what the front is.
That's
So,
right.
Robin,
You're
are
not
you-
going to change the front after you've picked one or the other.
No,
So, yeah,
that's
you
why I
can
said
two
you have
streets.
to see that plot first to make that decision. Where that house is physically going to be to decide on, yes, the pool could go there or not, depending on which way it faces.
Or in
Robin.
which way is the front, yeah, so then,
No, I don't want to interrupt their conversation.
no, I was going to say, then you already know which one's the front, so I'm not sure if it's necessary to
Have that
Have
extra.
that
have that in there
But-
because
but-
you've already
but-
determined
That's-
that.
But you don't have, I don't think with a double side, you have a choice right now, do you? If we've got a
I mean,
subdivision
typically,
road
when
here-
you're in when you're in a subdivision, it's already determined for you
Right,
which
so-
way the house is going to face,
We have the
typically.
subdivision
Right.
road here and Freemanville here. And for aesthetics, we had the house facing Freemanville. The back of their house, because it's facing Freemanville, is actually the front,
Right, of
according
that.
to the city.
So there's situations, I think in Alpharetta, if you go down mid-Broadwell at Bethany, there's a subdivision at that roundabout that they have houses fronting Bethany.
Right.
So I'm not sure if they have an actual street or an alley behind it, but let's say if it was a street, that's a scenario where the houses are facing Bethany, that's their fronts, and they would need to have a pool on the other street behind them. So it's really going to be determined how the subdivision is is laid out, so. I don't think we have to get into, I mean, it's not that often that you have to worry about it, but it's a good question.
Robin, we've got double-sided lots and we've got flag lots. Those are different, aren't they?
Yes, they're very different.
Are you trying to change anything with regard to the double-sided lots?
No.
Then why don't we just put a period and then say, in the case of flag lots or something like
Right, and that's
that?
what I'm saying is that I
we just-
believe that I did an extra phrase there. So I think that this here is extra. It should say,
So
local single-family residential lot,
period?
period.
And then in the case,
In the front yard
A
of flag lots.
lot, and, you know,
yeah, in a flag lot, it may be in the front yard or however we've got this here. Just put a period in, with the, so that way we're dividing it up, we don't have a lot of question.
Just start it with,
In the case of a flag lot, it may be in the, how do we put it here, front yard?
Yeah.
it would be in a flat,
So it says, or in the front yard on a flag lot.
I would suggest put, in the case of a flag lot, it may be in the front yard. I don't know, just.
in a flag lot, you would put, I mean, you would say, hypothetically, you could say in a flag lot and capitalize flag and lot if that's a defined term. In a flag lot, comma,
A pool may be.
swimming pools may be allowed in the front yard, provided
Right.
such alternative location is approved by the department.
yep.
You'll have to write it out and give
Yeah.
it to me. And I will say, technically, I know it's a defined term, flag lot, but when it gets codified in Muni Code, they get rid of all the capitalizations. So that's why I don't capitalize terms that are defined. It's reversed. So.
Are we okay on?
Well, yeah, I was
Oh,
going to
no,
say, is there any
just-
other discussion or you want staff to talk any more about this? Or?
I mean, I'm fine on this text amendment if you guys are comfortable with it. So I think they're related, but they're kind of unrelated to whatever might happen in the future with the flag lot situation, because there's still going to be flag lots out there that might need this, whether you eliminate them at all or whether they're a different kind of composition, it doesn't really matter.
Anybody else want to, you guys want to have any other discussion?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, we'll entertain any motions.
So moved.
Make a motion.
He was trying to slip that
Darn it.
past us, I think.
He's saying so moved that, we can't entertain a motion.
Sure, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
I move, we adjourn.
Well, we got to make it by purpose if you want to do something.
What?
You're all getting giddy. It's getting late. Long.
Does anybody have a motion to make in terms of they want to move forward, they want to defer, what they want to do?
Is this a work session?
Make a motion, we approve RZ 21-03 with the recommended verbiage change.
And you'll need to give it to me. Can you?
I need that.
Oh, you need that. You're the only, whoever has the original.
He's got it. He's got it.
You have it?
Yeah.
Me. But since this is a work session,
No. It's an actual public meeting. I've advertised this because
Oh, okay, okay.
We're on the RZ,
yeah,
So we're on that agenda
Oh,
item.
we're okay.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
on that agenda
All right,
item.
thank you.
Do you want to, you've got the change?
I don't have the exact change. I thought you had the exact change.
Okay, got it. Okay, so you want to make a motion to approve, and I'll add the friendly amendment to this in regards to your motion. So basically, the language, the proposed language for the detached dwellings will read as follows. The swimming pool shall be allowed inside and rear yards of single-family dwellings in any district. In addition, swimming pools may also be allowed at the back of the house on a double frontage, single-family residential lot, period. In a flag lot, swimming pools shall be allowed in the front yard, provided such alternative location is approved by the department, which shall approve the location if the purpose of the zoning ordinance is maintained with the proposed location.
I'll second
I
that.
second.
Okay, so Jan made the motion with your friendly amendment, and then Ron seconded.
Second.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody good? Anybody have a discussion on that? Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so that motion is passed.
Okay, so now we have Fred's favorite
Okay, now I
part.
can move. Move, we adjourn.
All right, we hear a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, guys. Everybody.
I forgot, Robin, that it was advertised as a meeting, and then we made it, but it said that in
I know.